welcome back to another empowering episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most feel better, the podcast mogul, and I'm bringing you the stories of innovation, resiliency, and entrepreneurial triumph. And today we're diving back into this world of AI, tech startups, and groundbreaking tech talent solutions with a visionary leader reshaping the future of hiring. Our guest is no stranger to the tech scene, a former Shopify employee and senior executive at Ottawa's powerhouse software startup Rewind. She's honed her skills at these trailblazing companies, mastering the art of scaling businesses and driving success. Now she's taken those invaluable lessons and poured them into her latest venture, Baja AI. Co-founded in June 2024 with Delaney Thompson, Baja AI is a revolutionizing the talent sourcing industry by combining artificial intelligence with the human touch of expert recruiters. In just a few short months, this cutting-edge platform has gained an impressive traction with over 20 paying customers and revenue already soaring in the tens of thousands of dollars. Who wouldn't love that? So let's get ready for a fascinating conversation about entrepreneurship, innovation, and the future of AI in talent sourcing as we welcome our dynamic and inspiring Danika. Danika, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'll jump in. I'll say it's Bahia, which
Bahia, I
throw
apologize.
people off. All good. It means a bay in Spanish, which is Bahia.
Yeah. I love that. So we're going to start with my favorite question, the one that starts all podcasts. What made you decide to throw off the shackles of the 9-to-5 and start your own company? You went from Shopify to Rewind, two amazing companies. Why did you decide to leave?
Yeah, so I think back in the day, even going back to university days, I knew I always wanted to start my own company, but I am a very risk averse person. So the thought of going right into it was really scary for me. I really wanted to save up a little bit of money, gain some experience, and then only once I had really high conviction in a business idea did I want to go full force. So I've definitely had my slew of side hustles over the years. I've sold tea. I started a tutoring business. I tried this masterminds thing. I have probably 10 side hustles over the years that I was trying to do during my full-time work, but none of them really went anywhere. And it was only recently, earlier this year, actually, in about May, in the month of May, that me and my co-founder Delaney got together, thought of this idea, and then we basically got a paying customer within the first week of having the idea, which I think to me was just a really good signal. And it was also a problem that I was experiencing myself at my day job. So I knew that I was onto something that was valuable to people. And why did I leave the 9-to-5? I mean, hey, it was really hard. The steady paycheck is awesome, especially once you've been working for a few years in the tech space. There's just so much opportunity to kind of grow and ramp up your role. But ultimately, I don't know. I love forecasting. I'm a huge finance girly. So I always do my own personal finance forecasts. And the thing about corporate is at the end of the day, you will likely have a ceiling for yourself. Unless you are one of the few that kind of join a Shopify early days, there is potential to be a multimillionaire one day and to really make it big. But I would say the odds of that are so low. And I just figured, if I was to put this much time and energy into my own business, I wanted to bet on myself, right? I'm confident. I know I can do it. And yeah, I'd just rather take that bet on myself and have that higher chance of, one day being a multimillionaire or whatever that might be or look like, versus being in the corporate job, working my ass off and only having the, 5-10%, whatever increase year over year. So ultimately, that's what it came down to, was just increasing my chance of, really making that life-changing money someday.
I love that. And I love how within the first week of starting this company, you already had your first paying customer, which for a lot of startups and beginners, it usually can take a good set of months really before anybody gets traction in knowing who we are. When you got that first customer, were you like, oh, I can get 100 other customers? Or were you like, oh, this may be a fluke. I need to take time. What were your initial kind of like feelings, sentiments about this? Were you over the moon, or were you more cautiously optimistic?
I would say I was definitely more over the moon. We sent out about 200 emails to people in what we called considered our, ideal customer segment. And the first email we got was from a person who worked at a very small company, about 20-person employee. And they were like an accelerator company where they help startups. So a part of me, although I was really ecstatic, I was like, okay, let's be real. Like, this person's kind of doing us a favor. She's just really nice and like wanting to help this up and coming startup, maybe. But I was a bit cautious as well because I'm like, okay, well, this is one person from a company that helps startups. So, but then what was exciting was shortly after that, maybe a week later, we got another interested person. And this person was different. They had a very different profile. They were a pretty senior person in the recruitment space at a large tech company of about, I want to say, 5,000 employees. And that was very different because that's a very different profile with very different needs. And, of course, this company is a lot bigger. So when that person was interested, who also ended up signing up as a customer, then I think we had this like aha moment of, okay, not only are we kind of attracting these like smaller teams, but even the bigger players are interested in us. So I think we're onto something here.
I like that. And with you guys being such a youthful company, both in terms of how long you guys been around, but also your employees, how has how have you been able to manage expectations? Because you're a new company, some companies may feel, or more established companies may feel that you may not be around, because we know like 5 years, not a lot of companies are around in the first 5 years, and then in 12 years even less. How are you fighting against that stigma in your business? Because I know a lot of people who are listening are looking to start their own business, and they have that fear as well. So how are you dealing with that?
For sure. I would say a few things. So, one, we definitely don't try to pretend like we're someone we're not. We are super transparent. We always say, "Hey, listen, like we're a two-person team. Here's what we can do. Here we really focus on like the value that we will be delivering to you. So, if you sign up as a customer, here's what you can expect. We don't really have to go into all the details of how we do things in the back end. All you need to know is we will deliver XYZ. So we're super upfront with expectations. And we also highlight all the benefits of joining us early, right? Of course, you might look at someone who's a huge competitor and say, like, wow, they're not even going to be close to offering what they're offering. But at the end of the day, like being a small team, you're super nimble. So, we tell everyone if there's any feedback you want to share or if you have questions, we will be on the phone with you, within the day. We will offer you very competitive rates because right now we're really focused on getting that product feedback. And the other huge benefit is, I mean, these people get to lock in on their early rates. So, as we're getting better and improving our product, they're going to be able to benefit from that, forever or for however long their contract is with us. And the best thing is probably the influence on the product development. So whoever joins us as a customer, we really try to talk to them and meet with them every month. We really try to get as much feedback as possible, and everything they want or ask of us, we put it in our roadmap, and whatever's the most requested feature, we make it a priority, right? So as much as there might be some obvious downfalls of going with a early stage company, there's actually a lot of benefits that I think people overlook. So those are some things that we highlight during our demo calls, at least. And then the other thing for anyone who's interested in starting their own company, I would say for your first 10 customers, they're probably going to be people who are within your network, right? So we really reached out to people we knew who trusted us as people, who believed in us as people, and were willing to give us a chance. So yeah, I'd say our first 10 customers are like, either someone within our network or like a friend of a friend or something like that, right? And then these people also usually are people who know what it means to sign up as a beta customer. You're not going to get someone that has really, really high expectations, who's super stingy. Like, these people know that they're trying you out for the first time. They're typically very curious. They're kind of what do you call them? Like early adopters, right? They want to try new tools and be the first ones to check you out. So I would say I've been pleasantly surprised by how happy everyone has been, and also flexible with us when things go wrong, because 100% things are going to go wrong with your first time customers. There's no
Yeah,
doubt with that. So just as long as you're aligned on expectations and all that, then it's pretty smooth.
I love that. With transitioning, because now you went from being an employee, now you're thrusted as the CEO and co-founder of this business. Have you seen in yourself a growth that was unexpected, or were you kind of already expecting yourself to grow when you stepped into the leadership role as the CEO of this company?
Uh, I'd say it's definitely pushed me to grow more than I thought, in that you just become the jack of all trades. And I saw that coming. I knew that once you're in this position, you have to just do it all and figure everything out. I think the biggest thing I've learned so far for me is to really let go of being a perfectionist. And this is where my co founder comes in, and she's been such a good teacher for me, and she's amazing. Like, she optimizes for speed. The speed at which this woman works is so insane. Like, I've never worked with someone like this. And I am more on the perfectionist side. Like, I'm like a high quality person, quality over quantity. And I think looking back at all of my previous side hustles that I've tried to launch, but was unsuccessful, it really came down to that. Like, I think I was waiting to get to the 95% before launching anything. And that's why I got nowhere, right? Versus with Delaney, we'll have something that's like 50%, and she's like, ship it, doesn't matter, send it, call it, ship it, whatever. And that's been the hardest thing for me to let go of, honestly, over the past now 6 months, is just being less of a perfectionist and just doing it. And doing is better than waiting and planning. Like, planning is nothing. You can plan as much as you want, but at the end of the day, that's not doing anything really. So that's been the biggest surprise for me. I didn't realize to a point I was quote unquote a perfectionist until I started being an owner of my own business with my co-founder.
I like that. That is a very important point to bring up to the audience, is you have to move with speed when you're young and nimble, because you have that opportunity. You're a small boat versus like a Titanic, which takes hours to turn when you're looking at that big corporation. With working in the tech world, and you've worked with some giants like Spotify. No, it's not Spotify. Shopify is a huge baby of Canada, a huge darling, if you will, of the Canadian marketplace. Rewind is getting there as well. What was the most valuable lesson that you brought with you from those two companies into your new startup, and how has it shaped you bringing it?
Definitely being customer focused. I would say Shopify and Rewind both would always remind employees it's all about the customer. It's all about the end user. How can we make this a better experience for them? And I find that was just constantly ingrained in all of us. And I would say at Bahia, it's just been the best thing for us. Even now, like, we're constantly balancing between, do we make our current customer experience better? Do we invest in the product, or do we invest in sales and go to market and like spreading the word? I actually spoke to another founder who is now running this very successful business doing over 10 million ARR. And when I spoke to him, his advice was, for your first 100 customers, you do the direct selling yourself. You talk to those customers constantly, get feedback from them, and really just focus on building a product that the first 100 customers absolutely love. And then after, start focusing on like the masses and the scaling and the go to market. And I think that's really wise advice, and something that, we have recently decided we're going to do before, investing in marketing, investing in more salespeople, all that. Because ultimately, if your first even 10 customers are super happy with what you're doing, they're going to become, spearheads to spread the word and tell their friends. And that's just the best thing that you can have for yourself, right? Because it's free. You don't have to pay for word of mouth, as I'm sure you know with your podcasting.
Word of mouth is the best form of marketing, and it's the most powerful, because you're whenever someone talks, if you have a listener that talks about it or a customer that talks about it, it gives us authority because it's like, it's not just the host or the owners saying it, it's a third party. And you trust that third party a lot more, uh, because, they're a friend, they're your family member, they're, your coworker. You trust them more than just some person calling you on the phone or trying to talk to you in their ear, like a podcast host that would love for you to leave a 5-star review on this episode.
Yes, absolutely.
uh, Danika, with everything you're doing, like you're growing this business, you're upscaling your skills as a leader, as a salesperson, because you're focused on selling to your first 100 customers, making sure that they have the um, best experience with this. How do you invest in yourself? How do you make sure that you are showing up as the best version of yourself, even if you're not currently that version?
Definitely put your health first. I will say every day I try to work out for at least 45 minutes a day. I always try to get outside time. I take breaks during the day. I think wellness is super important. So, yeah, if you get that activity daily, then you'll get your full 8 hours of sleep as well. I really believe in 8 hours of sleep. Without it, I'm a zombie and I get grumpy and no one likes being around me. So that sleep, fitness, and then otherwise, I would say really important to just surround yourself with people that you want to be more like. Yeah, if I had to go back, I think that's a big one for me is if there's people around you that you look up to and you're like, wow, like I'm kind of jealous of that person, like they've got something that I want. Be around more of those people because I really believe in the whole, you are who you surround yourself with. And like luckily for me, my fiance has been in the entrepreneurship scene for the past 8 years. He's had his company Hoppier, and being around him and his brother, who's his co-founder, and other friends who are, I have a lot of friends who started their own companies, has definitely made the journey easier, right? Because a lot of the stuff you go through yourself, it just doesn't feel weird. It doesn't feel lonely. You're like, yeah, this is normal, Oh, I don't know, a customer, maybe one day they're not happy with you, or getting a rejection from someone you're trying to sell, or whatever it might be. So I think that's one way that I also invest in myself is just through the people that I surround myself with.
Plus, having those people who have been at the starting point like you can always go to them and they can go, don't worry, that customer, I had them, they're a piece of special bread, and you don't have to worry about it, or you can get those tips. And it's like that saying, you are the result of the 5 people around you. And if you have 5 successful business owners, you're going to become the sixth,
And
which I,
sorry, I'll just jump into. I have to plug. I'm also part of a weekly coaching group with Founder Link by Graham Barlow, and
ooh.
that's been awesome for me. It's basically every week we meet. We're a bunch of founders, or newer founders that we meet weekly to share notes and talk about our challenges, and that's been also super helpful because I'm able to get input and help from other founders and also see what other people are dealing with. And you'd be surprised how most of our problems are the same. Like if you talk to 10 other podcast hosts, I'm sure you would all have the same issues. So having a mastermind group like that you can meet with on a ongoing basis is really helpful, not just for solving challenges, but also accountability, right? It really motivates you when you're like telling 5 people, I'm going to do this week. Well, you're going to be embarrassed if you don't do it. And,
Oh yeah.
you're not accountable. So that's another helpful tool for any founders or new founders out there that might want something similar.
I like that. I like having a group of people. Again, surrounding yourself with the 5 people that you want to be most like, and that successful founders, and having a group of other founders because they may be facing a problem that you haven't had yet. Right? They're 3 years down the road. They face this problem, then all of a sudden you face it, and you're like, oh wait, no, Georgie or Dan or Bill or Monica figured it out for me. I already have the solution, so you're able to jump by that. That is invaluable. That's priceless. Having those connections, um, with being in Ottawa, because Ottawa's not really known for being a tech heavy place in Canada. It's usually our coasts. New Brunswick is known because it had RIM, it had the BlackBerry creation, and it has all those other amazing companies. And you have the West Coast, which is just up this pretty much up the road from Silicon Valley in some regards. How have you found creating a startup in a place that isn't known for startups? It's more known for politics. It's like it's Washington in Canada. So like, how do you go about doing it and finding those people?
Yeah, there's the there are definitely pockets of entrepreneurship in Ottawa. So I think if you find them, you'll be pleasantly surprised how passionate these people are. I would say Invest Ottawa is a great place. For example, they have a building actually where founders can go and work from and meet other business owners. They have awesome programs for recent founders and grants and things like that. So that's one resource that I found really great for meeting other founders and just finding mentors in the space. Um, and then, yeah, I feel like in Ottawa, it's once you're in the startup space and you start talking to a few other people, you kind of get to know the who's, like there's a few names that come to mind, but there are these people who are just so well connected. They're so deep in the startup space. They know everyone. And once you get in touch with those people, I mean, they're just awesome because they're all about connecting you with other people. So I would say the people in Ottawa, the one thing they have is the passion. Like maybe because there's fewer people doing startup stuff, it's very easy to find them. And when you find them, they just are really generous with their time and connecting you with other people. So my experience with Ottawa specifically has actually been super positive. And, as soon as you go looking for that stuff, like it just starts popping everywhere. And if anything, my experience is there's so many people and programs that sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming to know where to start because there's just always some kind of event or thing happening. So yeah, I that's been pleasantly surprising for me how much of a startup scene there actually is in Ottawa.
I love that. I love hearing that as someone who is outside of the Ottawa area. I'm just down the road in Montreal. Hearing that there is a startup community, a entrepreneurial center in this political world, political city, is good to hear because maybe I'll drive up the road and set a flag there and see what I can do with podcasting. But this is more about you, Danika. I want to know, in 10 years, where do you want to be? Do you want your company to be the premier service, or are you looking to start your second, third, fourth, fifth entrepreneurial business that's no longer a side hustle?
I see Bahia becoming the number one tool, the number one what's the word? Superpower for hiring teams.
I like that.
So we've got a lot in the works. We've got a lot in the plans. I definitely see Bahia being around long term. So if it's not Bahia, it'll be something else. But as of right now, I am extremely bullish on Bahia and what's to come. So that's all I've got in what is it? Not the rear view, but
In the
the
foreground.
opposite. Exactly.
The
Yeah,
foreground, all you see in the horizon is Bahia becoming the behemoth of a
exactly.
business. And I want to talk about that because the AI space is rapidly changing and it's highly competitive right now, right? Because every couple of months, OpenAI is coming out with a new version of ChatGPT. Soon we're going to be on ChatGPT 85, and it's going to know before you even write the answer, right? I want to know, how are you staying competitive? How is Baja staying competitive in this environment? Because it's constantly changing, constantly competitive, and new things are popping up all the time. So how are you and your team looking to stay competitive?
Yeah, we're definitely planning on staying competitive just by being super focused on the problem that we're solving, which ultimately is helping teams hire so more efficiently and more effectively. So I would say a lot of these other competitors out there, like 11x is one, Artisan AI is another. They are really trying to build like digital agents for multiple teams, which I think is super awesome. Both of them started with like a BDR agent, and I would say we're really honing in on hiring only and recruitment, and in the space specifically for, I would say, high growth tech companies. So right now, our customers typically range from, I'd say, 20 employee headcount all the way to 5,000. That's really our sweet spot. And we're typically helping people who either don't have a recruiter on their team, or someone who has a recruiter that's full cycle. So they wouldn't have like a sourcer. And what we're offering is very much like a digital sourcer that works for you 24/7. That basically removes the need for you to hire a full staff, full service sourcer yourself. So I would say in our space, it actually hasn't been that competitive yet. I'm sure it will be in the coming years for sure. But I think we're kind of at the forefront, at least for the sourcing aspect of it. And we've just been, again, focusing on our customers, focusing on what they want. I think as long as that stays the main focus, I have no doubt that we'll be able to compete with all the competitors that pop up, because, ultimately we're just focused on building a product that our customers love.
I love that. I love how you're focused. Like, and it's a very important message to the listeners. Like, yeah, you can be niche down, and you're in this one niche, but you've gone super niche. You're like, look, we only care about one thing. One thing is sourcing the best employees. And with the fact that you and your co-founder are doing the sales call, you understand your clients. You already have the market share, because like you said, those other companies, they're doing other parts of it. They're not just focusing on that sourcing. And it's going to be a while before I think others will jump into it, because tech companies probably want to keep their sourcing person because it's good for the books or something. I don't know. They're stuck in the old way, even though they're on the cutting edge of technology. Um, but I want to get a piece of advice that you have for aspiring founders. What's one piece of advice to someone who's considered leaving, that secure golden handcuff role in tech to decide to go venture out on their own? Like, what is one piece of advice that you wish you were handed before you decided to make that leap with Baja?
I would say there is a non-risky way of going about it. I used to think, oh, wow, to have a successful company, I need to quit my job, never make a dime again, potentially become poor forever. That's
Live
not
on
the
the
case.
streets with all
Yeah.
those other ragamuffins.
Yeah, that's not the case. There is a way to go about it without all the risk. And I would say for us, it was one, working on a problem that I was facing day to day. Like, I had to hire people on my team, I had to do the sourcing. It was brutal. I hated it. It was stressful. So much so that I was like, I want to solve this because this just sucks. So that's where the idea came from. And I really think where people get, I think, off track is when they try to solve a problem that they don't have themselves or they haven't experienced. It's almost like a made up problem. So that's one. And then two, I think I mentioned this maybe slightly earlier, I was alluding to it, is try to charge money as fast as you can, because that is the best way to validate if you're delivering value. If you can charge someone money, even if it's just $10, $100, whatever, that's the best thing to validate whether what you are working on is worth solving for. Too many times in the past when I tried to start something, I worked on it for 6 months plus before trying to sell it, because I thought, hey, no one's going to want to buy this crappy version. Not true. If the problem is deep enough for people to want to fix, they will pay money even for a terrible version one. And that's exactly what we did. So that's my advice. Charge money, keep your job. You might even be able to get away with it for the first few months, like I did, of working, part-time on your business while still keeping your job. And then, wait till you have that really strong conviction, and then you can quit your day job and not have to worry so much about, ending up on the streets.
I kind of want to, just before we finish up here, I just want to touch on that. When you were still working part time and working a full time job, because you were in the tech industry, did you have any issues with your management frowning upon you doing this other company, or were they looking at it like, oh, this could be a benefit for us?
Um, I would say it wasn't so much, oh, this can be a benefit for us, because I think they know that my energy will be going towards something else. I would say, so after we had sent out that initial email, it was about a month in where we got our first handful of customers. And that's when I started really feeling like, okay, my energy was kind of going towards my business more than my day job, right? I was getting excited. I wanted to put more time and energy into it. all that stuff, right? I think anyone who goes through this, they'll understand. It's like, it becomes your priority. It's all you want to really work on. So at that point, I had spoken to my boss and I said, look, like, I want to be transparent with you. I'm starting a company. I'm really excited about it. And after having a conversation with my lead, he was super understanding. He was also, a founder. He had left his full-time job. And lucky for me, this person said, hey, you know what? I would love it if you stayed around. If you could work part-time, great. If you could work a few days a week, great. Let's find a way to make this work. And I think in the back of his mind, he was probably also thinking the chances of this working out for her are very low. So
He was hedging his bets. He was like, it works, great. If it doesn't, it's sad, but great.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it doesn't work for Danika, well, at least she'll stick around and we'll still have her as an employee. So it was kind of nice. And for me, I think being transparent and open with him was way better than trying to do it in hiding because, this person then gave me great advice. He's opened up doors for me with other customers. They ended up signing up as a customer. Like there was just so much good that came out of that conversation. And, I'm super lucky for this person. They're just an awesome boss and leader. They've helped me so much over the years. I'm like forever grateful for this person. But yeah, I would say being open and transparent, always better. And usually the conversation will be a lot more positive than you think. So, we're all human at the end of the day. And maybe my circumstance was unique and it's not necessarily the rule, but at least for me, it was really awesome and a very smooth transition out of my full-time employment.
I love that. And I love that you had a lead who was in the same shoes you were. In essence, you were coming to, and they understood what it took, and they're supportive, which is incredible to have as a lead and someone you could rely on, a mentor for your journey. We are coming to the end, which I hate. But Danika, we're gonna have you come back once you hit the 1,000 customers. I want you to send me an email. The minute you hit that 1,000, I want an email in my inbox or a DM in LinkedIn saying, "Phil, I'm coming back," and we'll jump on a recording right away. But Danika, I want to thank you. With my last question, what advice would you love to give to your 10-year-old self? What is that advice you just want to hand back to 10-year-old Danika in pigtails and going to school?
I would say do what you love. Spend more time on the things you enjoy and don't do the things other people think are cool. So many times, even as an adult, I think I gravitated towards things that I thought other people thought were really impressive and cool, like going into finance and like pursuing the Wall Street journey and
Life.
going into like mergers and acquisitions. Like I never really liked that stuff. And I did it because at the time it just was the thing that everyone, thought was amazing and cool and blah, blah, blah. But um even as a kid, like going into sports that like my parents really wanted me to be good at. I think for me, while I'm happy for all of those experiences, of course, I do wish I had spent a little bit more time following the things that I just enjoyed and that just brought me happiness. Cause I think when you finally do that, like the money, the success, all those things will come, right? Like I think the most successful people at the end of the day, they just have the courage and the guts to do what they think is cool, even though when everyone else doesn't think that thing is cool. So that's the one advice I would give myself if I was my 10-year-old self.
I think that's great advice, not only for a 10-year-old, but for any age, 20 to 90-year-olds. Do what you love and not what you think other people think is cool. Danika, I'm going to jump off the stage here. I want you to talk to my audience. Tell them how they can find you, follow you, how they can become possible customers of Baja. I want everything and anything you're willing to share to my audience. The floor is yours.
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Danika Chilibeck. You can also follow our page on LinkedIn. We are actually posting weekly videos about our journey and updates on the business. So definitely follow us on LinkedIn. We're all over it. And then if you want to send me an email as well, it's just danika@bahia.ai. And otherwise, yeah, check out our website, bahia.ai. You can request a demo there if you're interested in signing up as a customer.
Amazing. Danika, I want to thank you so much for being an amazing guest today. I had so much fun chatting with you, learning about your story, and I look forward to having you come back when you hit that 1,000 customers so we can celebrate together about how crazy of an adventure you're going on.
Amazing. Will do. Thanks so much for having me.
It was my pleasure. To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below to connect with Danika and Baha so that you can check out to see maybe their product is best for you to source those great people that you need on your team. I thank you very much for listening and being part of the show. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.